It's one thing to share your soul, and it's one thing to create something that is either artistic or some kind of form of service or some kind of product that you can give other people that gives them a piece of your soul and that you can share with them and that they can share back with you. But it's another thing to completely give your soul away or to completely sell your soul. And for those that are just joining, my name is Thaddeus, and this is the Regal Change YouTube channel. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about how being yourself is slowly becoming more and more of a risk economically and in your relationships day by day in this modern day and age. And the reason that this is because truth is being ostracized and demonized to the degree in which people are in some ways even just afraid to talk about their own points of view. I can't tell you how many times after I got to know somebody a little bit more, how if I was able to freely speak my mind, and I do because I don't really care. Like I have things on my mind, and I'm the kind of guy that I call a spade a spade. So if I say something, initially the person on the other end responded in a way before I said that to favor one point of view or the other. But then when I say the fact of the matter from the way that I see it, it's like, well, that's a fact and that's a fact. So this must be the conclusion given these facts. This is what the truth of the matter bears out provided the facts. Well, now all of a sudden the person starts to nod their head in agreement, and they start to understand where I'm coming from, etc. And this happens not so often, but when it does happen, it would happen often, more often times than you would think, I would say. And so a lot of the times we just live in a society that is just surrounded by fake people so much that have been raised on movies. They've been raised on TV shows. They've been raised on social media. And it's been like that so much so that they haven't been raised by their parents, and they haven't been raised by people in the community as well, because we were a tribal, and we still are, a tribal species to some degree. You know, times have changed a lot, but people haven't really changed a whole lot. And change is going to be inevitable, which is one of the reasons why I have this for my name of the channel. The name of the name of the game is change. But what doesn't necessarily always change is going to be the impact or the significance that you can create in your own life and in the life of others. Your spirit and your soul has an everlasting effect in this world, in this universe that we live in, which is really cool, but it's also kind of nerve-wracking when you think about like the existentialism of it. But in all reality, the classification of realities in this sense shouldn't necessarily be a hindrance to you understanding what it's like to be yourself. And the reason that this is because you are a part of the universe, and the universe is a part of you. Think about it as an image of your mind looking out into the world, but then also your eyes looking at inwardly at the mind. There's a meeting of those two where you understand that you are the witnessing of the witness. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. You are something greater, but it's become so challenging for people to witness the witnessing of their own life because they're constantly caught up in the story of their own life. So many people, this is one of the reasons why I think vanity is so prevalent in our day and age, is because social media pushes a storyline about yourself. And because you see this story over and over again, you tell yourself that this is the reality of the situation. Think about how many hours some people have spent on social media. I mean, the average person spends, according to the recent statistics, 4 to 8 hours a day on their cell phone, going through mostly social media. That's crazy. That's like literally crazy. That's a long time to be spending time on a screen for the purposes of just edifying, not even edifying. You're just gratifying. That's the term. Gratifying your ego. You're just gratifying the story that you think that you've created, but this story is an illusion, right? This whole reality is, in some sense, a form in itself. And what I mean by this is that the form of reality, because Plato has talked about this, for those that are unaware of the philosopher Plato and his theory on forms, Plato has talked about this in a lot of different parts of his writings, but forms are specifically idealized versions of people or things or animals or whatever exists in the world or the universe. There is an ideal. You can think about it as a metaphysical, perfectionistic model of a person, place, or thing, in which that ideal exists and the form of it does exist. But whether or not it is a concrete physical reality is a completely different story. And in fact, Plato seemed to believe that, and not really even, I don't want to even use the word believe here, but his logical conclusion was that anything that is in this physical reality could not ever really be the form of whatever is that perfectionistic thing, right? So the reason for that is because things are always changing in this physical reality. Things are always changing. We're always evolving. Change is really the only thing that is going to continue forward. However, what doesn't necessarily always change is certain patterns or certain functions or physical, or you could say scientific facts based on physics or based on biology or any kind of scientific endeavor. There are certain laws that are in place scientifically speaking. Like, for example, do people know about the light experiment and the photon experiment, where the photons, I can't remember the exact details because it's been a while since I heard about this, but the experiment is basically there's a light shining through like slots in a wall, and for some reason the photons on the other side, like the photons exist but they also don't exist in some sense. So it's like, perhaps somebody with more scientific background could help me out in the comment section here with this actual experiment, but if I remember correctly, the concept is that through this experiment, they understood that photons and light can exist in different places at different times through the lens of reality. But those photons, it's almost like they pop out in of reality. So what exactly does that tell us about the nature of reality and light itself? Well, it tells us that there are times and places and things in this universe that can exist in one place and time while simultaneously not existing in that one place and time. That's astounding. Well, so what exactly does that tell us about who we are? Who are we? Right? And how does this affect our relationships? This affects our relationships because people don't fear God. Like, I think that's what it really comes down to. People in modern day and age do not fear God. They do not fear the consequences of their own actions and the possibilities of ending up in a worse place than when they've started. It seems to me that people don't want you to be who you are and shine your light because they don't know how to handle the realness that you bring to the situation. And you could just be someone, like if you are a godly person and you're surrounded by people that are not really necessarily godly, and let's face it, in our society, most people are not godly, truly. And so your words themselves speak with a certain kind of force and power because you have authority over which God has given you. God has given you authority, and you have certain kinds of spiritual authority in the spiritual realm, and that impacts the physical realm and the people around you, because the people that are not spiritually attuned to themselves, it's kind of like an instrument out of tune. Whenever an instrument being played out of tune, like whenever you hear an instrument playing in tune, imagine this. This is something I just thought of. Imagine playing a song out of tune for so long, not knowing that it's out of tune, only to hear another guitar next door or just around you in general, and it's in tune. For the first time you hear a guitar that is actually in tune, and you hear the song that it's playing. You hear the plucking of the strings and the crispness of the strings. You hear the flow and rhythm of the music. How do you think the person that has never heard a tuned guitar ever will hear that tuned guitar? Well, at first they might be astounded or flabbergasted, but then they might wonder, well, then what are all these other guitars? And a lot of people don't want to wake up to the fact that they are playing their guitars of life out of tune. They're playing the strings of life out of tune. They didn't even know it. They just thought that this is the way guitars sound. This is the way life goes. It's not. It's just not. And one of the reasons that I think this is going to impact relationships so much, especially for men out there, like the men that are actually putting in the work, what's so hilarious to me, like I don't want to, I'll talk about this. I'm not going to say any names or anything, but I will talk about something that happened recently where a single mom had approached me, and she was in her 30s. You know, she's reasonably attractive, but I know that, I mean, she's already a single mom. Like what, why, like what do I have to like work with here really? So, you know, I found out that she was a single mom, and I don't like dating older women anyway. I've never seen it really work out anyway. There's been one person that I've seen now, one person in like 100 consultation sessions and all of my history with dealing with people in general, my 27 years here on this earth. I have one person that has seen a reasonably healthy relationship with someone that is older than himself. But that is rare. Like that, I do not recommend that at all. But anyway, this woman was very kind, and she was very submissive to me. Like she was ready to give me pretty much whatever I asked for from the vibe that she was giving. And I just didn't want to pursue it. I didn't really care. And like why would I want to have a relationship with someone that already has started a family? And that a man has already like been in her womb, really, right? Like all of the things that I have had to work for the past like 5 years, everything that I would have had to work for, all of my resources, all of my time, all of my energy would go to somebody else's seed. Like really? My legacy my bloodline would not live on, and all of my resources are going to go to somewhere else anyway. What kind of deal is that for someone like me? That's not a deal at all. So I politely declined, and thanks but no thanks, really. And I could tell that she was very hurt, and she was very, very she tried even harder for a little bit and kind of followed me around, but I just didn't pay attention to her. And now she's finally got the hint that, like, yeah, this isn't going to happen, right? Like, this is a no. Thank God. But like, it's amazing to me how some of these women, now that they're in their 30s, now that they have a child, now they want to go for somebody like myself, who has worked his fucking ass off to get to where he is. So men out there, you've got to watch. And I'm not even like where I really know I'm going to be. That's the thing. Like, I know that I'm still making my sacrifices. I know that I'm still like in training in some sense for like the thing. I'm in training for the thing. Like, I'm acting out my purpose now. I'm fulfilling. I am fulfilled. However, that's not to say that there's not more to do. Like, I'm not done by any stretch of the imagination. I'm getting started over here. And a lot of men would probably, I don't know, but based off of what I would see out here, these, like in my community, that is, a lot of the men would look at a woman approaching him and go for it. Why? Because, well, it's a woman she's reasonably attractive. Yeah, she's a little bit, she's a little bit older than me, or she's just a little bit older in general, and she's got a kid, but she's reasonably attractive. Like, she keeps up physically fit, right? And that's great. But like, where's your husband, lady? Like, what happened? This is someone, like, I'm not saying that this person doesn't, like, can't earn happiness to some degree, but I don't know what her background was or is, but you've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding me. There's no way any man worth his salt is going to take that deal and run with it. A man that is working his way to a certain point, he's not going to accept that. And the reason being is because, like, if you are a man that is on his purpose, that is on his grind, and you know where you're heading, and you're single, you don't have any kids, you've got a decent job, you've got good things going for you, you're reasonably attractive, you're godly, you're not screwing everything that comes at you, you've got some sexual discipline and physical discipline, you take care of yourself, you're literally marking all of the boxes. You're charming, you're charismatic, you're funny. Like, all of these things you're checking off. You are literally the complete package. And yet, so many of these women out here think that because they have a kid, it doesn't change who they are. And it's like, look, lady, this isn't about like whether or not I think you're a good or bad person. This is whether or not I want to continue my legacy with someone that isn't really my kid, and with someone that's already started their family. Maybe if you wanted someone like myself, you wouldn't have had a child before this. And again, I don't know the situation. I can't really make any judgments, but I've had women in the past with children as well. Like 2 years ago, for example, it was like a no, this was 3 years ago, because it's like 2024. This was 3 years ago. There was a woman that was like she just had twins, and she was one of these like insurance agent ladies, and she had come to the workplace that I'm at, and she like asked me out to dinner that night just because of like, she could just see something in me, she said. And, I was like, okay, like, this is all right. This is all right. Like, she's asking me out to dinner. Okay, cool. Oh, like just before the date, just before dinner, she says, "By the way, I just had twins." And I was immediately like, "No, no, this is thanks for letting me know, but no." And she was really sad and upset too, but it's like, look, you can't it's going to be difficult for you women out there that have already started families, that have had children out of wedlock, and or that have had baby daddies from multiple baby daddies, or you're already in a relationship and you're trying to get other guys. What do you think you're doing, lady? Like, what do you think you're doing? Has nobody told you that this is like not okay? Like, we're lying to our women, and then we're telling our men that we have to take, like, the men have to take the responsibility of the actions of someone that they weren't even a part of. The men have to take responsibility for the actions of someone else that was careless at their time. It's like, oh, well, I was young. Okay. We were all young once. That doesn't mean that you get a free pass for stupid. Okay. I'm not saying you're stupid, but yeah, you kind of acted stupidly. If you had a child out of wedlock and now the dad isn't in the picture, whose fault is that? That's like, it's not always the dad's fault, right? So men, what I'm trying to say here, and I'm not trying to bash on like single mothers or anything like that, but I saw this thing today where out of all the countries in the United States, single moms, the percentage of single moms in the United States was higher than any other country in the world. So we are quite literally, in some sense, the generation that is being raised by single mothers. And these same men that are out here will die to defend the single mothers that taught them how to become castrations of themselves. It's just mind-blowing to me. Like, they are becoming the castrated versions of themselves while simultaneously protecting the people that taught them how to spiritually castrate themselves. How disgusting is this? Like, these men out here need to understand that you can walk away from these situations, okay? You can walk away. There are way better things out there for you. If you're a man that has all of those check boxes marked off, there's something way better for you. And this is one of the reasons why vetting is so important. It's going to be super, super important for your relationship, whether you're a male or female. Because if you women out there, if you women out there are choosing consistently certain kinds of men and getting failed results, well, guess what? It may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility, right? Like, who else is going to take the responsibility? It's yours. And it's the same thing with men. Same thing with the men. It may not be your fault that you're choosing these women because of the way that you were raised. But guess what? It is your responsibility to change that. And you can change that. And as far as your economics, this is exactly what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying. Because now if we speak the truth into being, there's going to be a lot of, like, any traditional woman or any traditional man is going to watch this video and completely agree with what I have to say. They're not going to bat an eye because they know that I'm not talking about them. But the people that are going to get triggered at this video are going to be the ones that I'm talking about right here, right now. So there's much more to say on this topic, but I hope that was an insightful or at least some kind of form of utility for you in today's video. And with that being said, peace be with you, and may the grace of Jesus be with us all.